The next equity issue in education that we're going to look at is based on gender. Gender equity has been an issue in Pakistan and still is. And the disadvantaged gender group are the females, and the disadvantage affects them in three ways. We shall look at these three ways next. The first one is their opportunities for success in education, which simply means that even if girls get into schools and in education, they are not allowed to be successful in areas that they would like to be in. For example, teachers and even parents would say that no, physics is not for girls. You are not going to become an engineer or an architect or something like that. Why do you need to study physics? Even if our female populations in schools get through that stage, the next issue then becomes, all right, you've got your education, now sit at home. You are not allowed to work, you're not allowed to contribute outside of home, and therefore even receiving an education, the productivity of females is hampered. Gender-related equity as an asset for enhancing life chances. If our girls, if our female students are provided with the right opportunities, it can actually help them enhance their life chances, live a fruitful life, live a successful life, be a contributing citizen of Pakistan. Let's examine some statistics related to the number of primary schools, teachers, literacy rate, and net enrollment rates for boys and girls across the country. These four aspects will clearly show why and how our female students tend to be the disadvantaged group at all levels of education. Whether it is school, college, or university, girls seem to be at a disadvantage, and this disparity continues to exist even today. Schools. Without enough primary schools, it is impossible to achieve universal primary education. It's the sheer number, the fact that we don't have enough primary schools that will accommodate boys and girls, and parents prefer to send boys to school if they at all do agree to send children to school. The girls tend to be at a disadvantage. So unless we have enough number of primary schools for both boys and girls, this will continue to be a disadvantage. Sufficient numbers of schools for both boys and girls is a requirement for equality in access to education. If we want girls and boys to be equally accessible to good quality education, the number of schools will definitely need to be increased. Schools. If you look at this table 1, it shows the number of boys, girls, and mixed, which is co-education, primary schools by the province. Let's just look at Punjab. Schools for boys, about 22,000. School for girls, 23,000. Mixed school are 10. Total 55,000 schools, roughly. Even looking at that, and we can see that there are maybe 1,000 more schools for girls. And that's because parents prefer to send their girls to schools that are girls-only schools. Mixed schools, when you look at co-education, the number of boys are much more than the number of girls. So there is that disparity there already in the number of girls attending the schools, even though according to this table, the number of schools for girls seem to be more, the number of girls in schools is not equally effective. Schools, table 1, we've seen, shows there are a total number of 146 schools in Pakistan, primary that is. Of these, about 44% are schools for boys, 32% roughly are schools for girls, and 25% roughly are mixed enrollment schools. So overall in the country, although in Punjab there seems to be more schools for girls across the country, because if you look at provinces like Balochistan and KPK, where girls are not generally allowed to go to school, opening schools for girls is not a good option. So across the country, the numbers are different. Punjab still looks fruitful. Thus, Pakistan has fewer schools for girls than for boys. We've seen that. Schools, again, we've seen the number of schools over here and across the country and within the different provinces as well. A comparison of urban and rural figures indicates that there are fewer schools in the rural areas than there are schools in the urban areas, particularly for girls. Across the board, the number of schools in rural areas are much less compared to the urban areas, and particularly for girls. So 24% are girls' schools, 49% are co-ed, and 47% are schools for boys. Doesn't say much about equity in education, especially when you look at the factor of gender.